Hey, and welcome guys. As you can see today we have the Iron Man from Moebius. Now I recently picked this up at a model show and I got it for $5. It didn't have the box with it, but it came in this bag. All the parts are here and instructions, so $5 is a great deal. I was kind of looking around for an Iron Man type model anyway, so excited to have this. So just moving forward, not sure what we're going to do with it. We may try to light the arc reactor and the eyes up here and just kind of see what we have. So let's just dig in and see what we can come up with. Alright, so I have decided to light the model. So just first part was the head is basically three parts. You got these two sides. Now as you can see, I've cut a very ugly hole where the eyes go, and I've also cut out the eyes for the faceplate of his armor, and I simply did that by drilling in a series of small holes in each eye, then taking my X-Acto knife and very carefully just trimming it out. And then from there I took a piece of emery board such as this and cut out a very small section that would fit through the eye hole, and I used that to sand down the edges on the eyes. So I think that turned out pretty well as far as getting those eyes cut out, and I just had to cut out a big section. I want to make sure that the eyes are going to get lit. As you can see, that kind of goes over that. Now I can tell a challenge in this model is going to be the seam lines that are going to run throughout the model. We'll have to address those later. The head also has another connecting point, and as you can see, I drilled out this connector that runs between the body and its head, and I put a 1.5 millimeter white light in there, and I simply drilled out the very center of it to run that wire in there, and then that will connect with the head in here. I also had to eliminate, there was a connecting tab right here. As you can see, I've cut that out because that was meant to lock into this place. I'm going to have to glue all that in. It's not a big deal. There was another connecting point right over the where the eyes had to be cut out. I had to cut that out, and this plastic seems to be somewhat fragile. I started to get a crack. I think I fixed it. I glued it. I think it was on this side. I had a bit of a crack form, and I've glued it. So we'll have to, when we go to prime it, we'll have to make sure that that doesn't show up. Anyway, so this light will come in here, and we're going to have to light block this, so we'll put some black paint. I might just hand brush that in there because I want to make sure my edges are exposed. So when I do glue them, I'll get a nice weld on the pieces. But I'm going to paint that black and then come in with some white to make it nice and bright inside there, since we're only using one light. As you can see on this chest armor, I've cut out the, there we go, his arc reactor, where that's going to show, and simply drilled it out. Took some sandpaper, kind of rolled it up in that. Once I got it drilled out to rough size, took some sandpaper, this is this 1500 grit, rolled it up in a circle to where it would fit through, and I used that to sand that smooth. Now to go behind it, this was a clear button that I've used on other projects like my Star Destroyer engines. It has these little connecting points. I obviously cut those off, but then I sanded it down to be nice and smooth, and you get that kind of neat effect going on with the light, with the texture. I thought about putting it on the round side, but I think it's going to be a little bit look more accurate and still have a nice effect. We put that in there, and then once it's lit behind, we're going to get that light refracting off those different angles. So that'll go in something like that. So that's what I have in mind for his chest piece. And for the legs, we're going to start, we have the bottom of the foot, which has a couple of holes already to go onto the base. Well, obviously I think we're going to eliminate this one, and that's going to be where our wiring is going to come up. It's going to run through there to the bottom of the foot. We're going to have to drill out a little bit of an opening between there. That's not a big deal. Then I'll run through the bottom part of his leg where there's plenty of space. Again, we're going to have to drill out a little place for our wiring to go, and we'll do that right in the center of here. I'll go up into his thigh, and this is three pieces. As you can see, we have a connecting point. And again, we'll probably have to drill some holes in there, but there's plenty of room to run the wiring. and then that will connect into the body. There's a connecting point. We'll probably eliminate these connecting points so we don't have to worry about trying to match all that up. And that will connect in the body, and then we'll get our wiring into there. So we have our wiring mapped out. Shouldn't be too hard, very simple. And we're going to put another white LED in here, probably 3mm, possibly 1.5 like we use in this head. And that's going to be it for the lighting. All that will run down, and we're going to use this base. We may put this on top of something else like a wood base and secure it to that. But the thought is there's plenty of room for a battery. We could put a 9-volt, which would last a really long time for only those two lights. We can put attach a 9-volt in there, and maybe we'll put the switch. This is the front. Maybe we'll put the small switch on the back side here in one of these flat surfaces so it won't be noticeable. So right now that's the plan for the lighting. I just have to drill out those spaces, get it together, and again, we're just going to have a lot of work, cleanup work with these seams. Hopefully it'll come together where I want to glue it. So I'm just going to get busy working on that. Alright, just working on the different sub-assemblies here. As you can see, we have our leg together that has our wiring that's going to run to our base. And I'm just trying to remove all these nasty seam lines. It's going to be a lot of work throughout the model. Pretty much every part's, the seam line's going to go right down the middle of each part. So having to address that. Other than that, it goes together pretty well. Wasn't too hard to feed this cable. As you can see, it's going to feed right to this section in here. And then that will feed into the body. And I'll have to trim off these connecting points, or at least on this one side. I probably won't on this back side right here, but that'll fit in like that. I've also, you can see on this part, I've actually did a coat of primer, and that helps bring out issues with the seams and stuff to dress. This is the first coat of primer, and we got the forearm pretty well. Don't think we'll have to touch that up, but here in the upper part, obviously I didn't catch that quite as well. So I have some seam lines go through here, so I may go back in with a little bit of putty, seal that up, and then put another coat, light coat of primer on it. So just getting all those things together, and then we'll get into putting it all together as one piece. Alright, I'm getting ready to put my Iron Man all together here, and just want to show you the wiring. We have it coming up through the leg and then into the body. We have the arc reactor light all connected. We have some aluminum foil around it for some light blocking. We have his head together, and just worked on the seam line here. We don't have the faceplate on yet. We're going to save that for later. But we got attached to all the rest of the stuff has to be attached at one time. There's slots in here. So when we put on the arms and legs and the head, it all has to be in place when we go to put on the body. So I've done all that. I've checked the lighting, make sure that it's worked. I've already sealed it together. So I'm just going to be assembling from here, and then we're going to go into painting them. Alright, as you can see, I have them together here, except for his faceplate. That's off and being painted separately. I'll put that on last. And just connected his body here. I had to work on these seams right here where the body came together, and also up by the neck. And so I'm still working on that a little bit. And we had a little bit of a seam in the bottom of his body right here. And so just filling all those up. And of course, you can see I put in one more coat of primer. And so I think we're pretty close to doing the base coat now, and I'm a little undecided on the paint for the base coat. I know I want to do a red, but I think I want to go a little bit dark red, so I have to look around and figure out how I'm going to do that paint job. But I think all the seams are coming together. As remember, we had seams all the way up and down the legs, down the arms, and then the front of the legs, and so I think most part we have that. I'll give them one more once over. I might have to put a little bit more primer where I was cleaning up that seam right there. And I think he's about ready. We had a seam on top of his head. It ran right down through the middle. And I think we've got that pretty well. It's a little crooked here, so I'm not sure what I can do with that. I may try to clean that up a little bit. So just getting ready to paint them. Alright, I got all the battery all connected now. As you can see, we have a little on-off switch right here. Now I have a little battery right here. I only had one left. I just ordered some more. I'm going to have to put at least one more in there to hold this battery in securely. The one holds it, but it's kind of loose. Let's see if I can get a better view of that. I just put this plastic card in there just so I'd have a flat surface for the magnets in the battery. And so that's all wrapped up. And we're still working on the painting now. The battery just came off, so I definitely need another magnet in there. We put on the base coat. See if I can get a better view of this. And we'll just kind of leave it right there. We'll save the head for last. Now for the base coat, I used this color right here. This is from Duplicolor, and the color is Inferno. See if I can get that in focus. Anyway, it's an Inferno Red. It's from Duplicolor, so I'm going to focus on that right now. And, but anyway, now this can be found at any kind of like auto parts store. This can was about $10 here in the US. The reason I went with this color is I was looking for a little bit deeper red, a little bit more metallic color, and I thought this fit nicely. It's you know, quite a bit more than your regular rattle can. It's about on par with what you would pay for a spray can of Tamiya color. So it went on very well, and I'm very pleased with the color. Only thing I think I would do differently is I sprayed it on. Yeah, the battery's gonna definitely need another magnet. I sprayed it on just directly over the primer, and I think it would have done better if I would have did like a silver or chrome paint first, because it's somewhat transparent, and I think it would have had a more metallic look. Now I'm going to put on a clear gloss coat. We're going to do a little bit of weathering to bring out the detail. Not so much weathering, but we're going to put in some black wash to kind of bring out some of the details. We still have some detailed painting to do on it, like some silvers and chromes and a little bit more gold touch-up. The gold was this with hand brushed on with this gold Model Master paint, and a little bit more touching up on that. So we're going to put a gloss coat, we're going to do a little bit of weathering, and we're getting close to having it completed here. Alright, I've added a clear gloss coat on them, and like the way the paint has turned out, and I'm working in just adding in, bringing out the detail of them. And this is a method I've used before, and this is this black liquid shoe polish. This is just a cheap black liquid shoe polish, and I just brush it on kind of like a wash, and then wipe it off. I've already did some of this side. I've had to adjust the lighting because he's so glossy it's kind of hard to see. This side's not done yet, as you can see in this side. See if I can get a little bit better in focus for you. And just getting this shoe polish on all these panel lines. And the shoe polish is easy to work with. It's water soluble, so if it starts to dry, just take a wet cloth and wipe it off. But it'll get in there without staining the paint too much, or hardly at all when you put the gloss coat. But it'll get in all these areas, and like here where you can see where you have to wipe it off. But you just go in, and I like to use a paintbrush and just working into all the panel lines and recessed areas and areas where you want to bring out the detail. And I cover it all up. I give it a few minutes kind of dry inside there. Then I just take a clean dry cloth and wipe it off. And again, if it starts to dry too much, I just put a little bit of water on there and take it off the areas I don't want. So I'm going to work on that. There's a little bit of detail painting, some chrome and silver accents I need to put in, and put another gloss coat on. When I come back, we should be finished. Alright, well here we are with our finished Moebius Iron Man MK3 unit. And just to kind of go back over, this was the instruction manual, which is kind of funny because I know this is the box art too. It shows him in a completely different pose. His pose is somewhat unremarkable, but I don't know if this is any better. It kind of looks like he's taking a leisurely walk, so it seems like they could have did a little bit more dynamic pose, but I guess for the sake of just displaying his armor like he's not in it, I guess. Anyhow, other than that, it was a fun kit to work on. There is a lot of seam work, and that's the big challenge. If you're not going to light it, obviously if you light it, Makes it a little bit more challenging, but there's plenty of room there for LEDs, and if you really wanted to, you could light the inside of his hands as repulsors, I guess. But other than that, the seam work that runs up and down all the different arms, the head, different things like that, that's a bit of a challenge, takes a little bit of work. I think I got it pretty well covered. We had some, if you recall, seams going all the way down the front of the legs. We had it on the forearms, the side of the biceps. We got the sides of the body. That was a little bit challenging. And of course his head on the very top had a seam coming through here. And so I think if you really look, a few places might be able to see a little bit, but I think for the most part we got it all covered. And so I'm pretty happy with that. Just to recap the paint, again we used Duplicolor. This is the Inferno Red, and I'm really happy with the dark color, the kind of deep red. It went on really well. I did put on some clear gloss coats, just some spray can, rattle can clear gloss coats. I ended up putting 2. I put 1 on, did a little bit of the weathering and detail stuff with the shoe polish, and then let that dry and did another clear gloss coat on there. Did the gold with Model Masters, just hand brushed on there. I know I have a few little areas that probably went over the lines a little bit, so that's not my strong point, is doing fine painting like that. The base, looking at the model that they gave us, I really like the color of this base of whatever this is, scraps of metal and stuff. And what I did to replicate that, and I think I did a pretty good job replicating that color, and that was a mixture. I used some Vallejos. This is brass, and let's see if I can get that in the focus. It never wants to focus up close. So let's see if we, there we go. I did some Vallejo brass, and then some Vallejo steel, mixed in with a little bit of acrylic thinner. And it was about a 50-50 mix, give or take. You have to play with a little bit. And that's how I came up with this more of a, I guess, a pewter color. Maybe I'm off on that. But and then a little bit of rust. I did a wash and some silver accents. So we did light him. His switch is back here. And we did his eyes and his arc reactor. Again, it wouldn't be terribly hard to run little SMDs or LEDs even in there. You just have to cut through the wrist and the different arms and part. I probably would have lit one if he would have been like aiming his hand out, but since they're in a down position, I went ahead and left them off. So I just used 2 LEDs there, and they were both 1.5 millimeter pre-wired LEDs, just running down to a 9-volt battery that's magnet held in place by magnets up under the base. And so again, I got this project for $5 at a model show. Been looking online. It looks like they start between $60 and $70 to get one in the box right now. So quite the deal on price getting this thing. Very happy with it. It's got me wanting to do more of the Iron Man suits like this, or war machines or things of that nature. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, you can always comment me in the comments section, or you can email me at eaglesci-fi-modeler@gmail.com. That's eaglesci-fi-modeler@gmail.com. So anyway, guys, until next time, everybody have a good one.